People First podcast coming to you from a very special location today. I'm with two tremendously amazing people, great guests. Our relationship is deep and dynamic. I'm going to turn it right over to you guys. Introduce yourself.
Albert Rocha, started Premier Physio about 2.5 years ago now, and obviously been very fortunate to have Ali on board as one of our physios. She's been phenomenal, so I'll take it over to her.
I'm Alessia Bohem, and I've been with Premier almost 2 years now. Started as a PTA and jumped on as physio.
Yeah, and thank you. And I just want to point this out because Alessia is a name that you don't often hear.
Never
hear it.
Never hear. It's always Ali, Ali, Ali.
It is.
And
Ali.
it's such a beautiful name.
Thank
so,
you.
So thank you for sharing that, right? You sent an email the other day, and it was like, Alessia, I'm like, oh my gosh. Beautiful. There's some, for me, there's beautiful names, right? But even inside our household, Ali, right?
Well, I got a bad tendency of shorten people's names for one syllable off your tongue real quick. And then, was it your first day in? Was it your first day or
My
the
first day.
Or when you came and applied?
No, the first actual working shift.
Oh. So I was like, her name was Alessia. I was like, I didn't even think of going to Les or whatever. And I was like, so Ali. And then she just never corrected me. She nearly crapped her pants on the spot. She's like, yeah, okay. Deer in the headlights. And then never corrected me. And people only ever know her to be Ali. And then if someone calls her by her real name, or if someone comes in and says Les or Alessia, they're like, what? Who?
Yeah.
So... But, yeah, no.
And this is why I'm excited to be here today, because I'll tell you about my relationship holistically within this community was just magical, right? Not knowing anything about physiotherapy ever in my life, and to spraining my finger because I was being an idiot and working outside and tremendously distracted and got in an argument with my wife, and I don't know how
So the full story comes out.
Yeah,
now.
the whole and I was distracted and it dislocated my finger, pretty bad. Went to a doctor and he said, well, you have to go for physiotherapy. What the hell is physiotherapy? Never. I guess I'm fortunate or uneducated, or I've never had it. Driving by several years ago now, and saw the sign, pulled in, okay, I got this note from a doctor. Albert, you were here. Okay. When do you want to start? I don't know. Can you do it now? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And our relationship started from there and flourished. And this place is home for me. And that's why I'm here today.
Yeah. It was definitely, I remember that because it was you kind of came in and didn't anticipate it. And fortunately had a spot in the schedule. It was when we were first starting out, so we had a bit more availability, so it was easier for that to happen. But yeah, it was just kind of an instant conversation that obviously blossomed to years later and so many other avenues of projects that we've gone through and completed, so it's been fun. Did not think it was going to end up to where it is now from that initial conversation, so it's kind of been exciting.
This is what I get excited about. This is why Premier is so special to me. I tell everybody, right? And whether they choose to take action on it, we can't control people, except that everything in my life I've had some pretty deep conversations with you in here.
Yeah.
It's been you and I and tears, laughs, and everything in between of shit that's going on in life. Because you often say it, and it's your framework of the therapy part is the biggest part of physiotherapy, or however you frame that.
Yeah, it kind of what I say is, and teaching Ali, and she's gone on now to be honestly a super impressive physio. It's actually kind of one of the most proudest things that I have. But is that, you got to manage the individual, right? So kind of that therapeutic aspect, where you have to manage the individual, not just necessarily the injury or whatever issues they might be having physically. In actuality, that, doing this long enough physically, that part's the easy scenario to kind of resolve for someone, but who they are as an individual, how much do we have to manage them and their personality or mindset. So that therapeutic aspect that's where it gets challenging, right? And so, yeah, it's all part of it. You don't treat someone's knee, you treat the person. That's kind of a rhetoric we say in physio. So, but yeah, it's kind of the beauty and the beauty of it. So it makes every individual different, makes every case different, makes some challenging more than others, or makes some easier than others. So it's kind of the beauty of it.
It's thank you. to the two of you and everybody else within this space that makes this more than just a transaction, which is so different than the stereotypical place, right? And I'll sort of bring my story full closure for the audience out there, is that every time there's something that occurs within our household, even our children, can we go see Albert, right? I remember there's, Christian hurt himself at school. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Well, can you see if Albert's available, right? Whether it's, I think it was you who's ever available, no problem. And every time I have an issue, because I'm here regularly all the time now for proactive purposes, but it's like, hey man, I got this issue. How do we deal with it? I've got this extra report. Give me your feedback. It's a trusted resource, right?
Yeah.
So, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's kind of one of the currencies teaching Ali, and I'll let her share it. Of the one thing we always try to fight for, if you will, and what the one important currency is. So.
Yeah, I picked up on it pretty early with Albert, but then having to go on my own, his little voice in the back of my head was always like, gain their trust, show them why they come to trust you. And now I look forward to like people coming back in and not having to deal with, how's your ankle, how's your knee? It's like, okay, your kids, they came to visit you, or it's like little bits and pieces I remember from them. That's what they really like are amazed at. They're like, how do you remember? Thank you for caring, for listening. And we see a bunch of different personalities regardless of the injury. Some are way more positive in their outcomes, some are a lot more negative. And like Albert said, it's dealing more with the individual and changing that approach. And it's tough in times, because a lot of times we'll see 3-4 patients at once.
Right.
And it's about juggling, and I hardly get 4 negative people at once. I'll get 2 positives, a negative, and then 1 that does not want to be here. And it's trying to change their perspective on, by the end of the session, now I got 4 positive people that want to come back next week. And then we just build from that, and it's been great so far. At least I tried to make everyone feel positive.
Well, that's what we're having this conversation for, because you're literally taking that people first approach. Like it's what you're connecting with people, right? And you remember stuff. It's experience, right? That's what drives people back.
Oh, for sure. Right? It's like little bits and pieces that they may not think was important, but it just stuck with me. And I tell it to Karina all the time. Like, she'll tell me something small,
right?
And the next time she comes in, I'm like, all right, tell me this. I need an update. And she's like, okay, yes. And we spend the first 5 minutes debriefing, and then I'm like, all right, let's fix everything. Yeah. Which
sets it up nice for you, because oftentimes you finish the session, it's like, hey, want a coffee? Of course I want a coffee. That's the reason I come in here for, right?
Yeah. It's like, so one of the things, right, we kind of always make sure we definitely try to incorporate into our sessions is that social element, right? That connection that we've talked about, I think, many times here, and what Ali was obviously talking about there. And so, that's just one aspect to it, right? Typically, everyone can bond over a coffee. We can't, unfortunately, offer alcoholic beverages. So the next best thing would be coffee, and it's just a form of connection, right? So majority of people do drink coffee, so it's just a way to make a coffee. They look forward to it. It's become part of the culture, right? So just instituting that amongst everyone and having them come in, and I think we'd even sort of say it's kind of gone beyond just the clinic here itself. Like, even the entire plaza, like, everyone kind of congregates into here, comes by for a coffee, and so it's been fun, to say the least.
And I'm going to come back to you, a leading question here, where is, there's what would you, when it comes to coffee, how would you describe Albert's relationship with coffee?
An addict?
Not wrong.
It's not. Look at the coffee beans in the coffee table right now.
Right.
I think she knows every joke, all my rhetoric. She can literally quote me verbatim. It's disgusting.
Like, in my head, I come in, I do my things, I start my patient, but in the side eye, I'm like counting how many espresso Albert has made. He goes into the kitchen, he comes back. He goes into the kitchen, he comes back. He offers it. He doesn't want to be alone to drink his like 5th, 6th of the day, so you got to jump in with him. Make him feel a little better. And then we're like bouncing off the wall 6 p.m. and we're like, all right.
It's gonna be espresso. There's folks out there. There's no way in hell that you'll see him with a Tim Hortons cup in his hand. That's not going to occur. There was once. And
it lives forever. Unfortunately,
Angie, who's not here today, she'll be here for the next time.
Yeah.
Captured it on.
She got a picture of it.
Of it.
Yeah.
Which is.
It was
amazing.
It was one day she bought it and she's trying to like make it like an espresso, so like a cappuccino. And I'm like, of course I'll drink it. So we were busy, and I left it on the counter, and she's like, "Oh, Al, did you try the coffee? Did you let me know or let her know what she thought?" And I was like, "Oh no, I just hadn't had a chance." So I go, I drink it, I turn around, and then she's like, "Click," and I was like, "Son of a," and I wasn't like, I was just like, I was like, "Damn, she got me!" Like it was just so good. And I said, "You know, what would be even like better? You frame this and give it to me as a birthday gift." And sure enough, that's what she did. And so we would then like lean into the joke and obviously show that. Actually, during Christmas, we had it on the table. And I was like, two things. One, how arrogant are you to have a picture of yourself there up front? Like, what an idiot. And then two is it also looked like an obituary. Like, oh.
Yeah,
like a morning table.
Like a morning table. I'm
Yeah.
like, let's remove that, but we'll make sure we kind of make, laugh at myself with it. And so kind of bring up the joke to everyone. But yeah, she definitely, that was a solid joke.
I can't wait, because your birthday's this month, isn't it? Is
A
that
couple
true?
days. Like,
Yeah.
5 days
So
or
for the
something.
audience out there, you can see the Christmas tree in the background. We are in the month of November.
Yeah.
So can't wait to see what this year's surprises are going to be.
I'm not looking forward to it 'cause it's always a solid joke. Like, I got a rubber ducky on that counter by the sink because apparently make a bird bath every time I wash my hands in between people. So there's like
It's not apparently, it's
no,
it's
it's
for sure.
definitely yeah. And then there's like a whole set list of all my phrases. I've gotten T-shirts with my entire phrases. So we'll see what next year's phrase set list is. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it's been fun. Listen, jokes and banter is a mandatory requirement here.
Absolutely, right? And then you coined it the best. Was it this Halloween where you dressed up as Albert?
I was dressed up
That was
as Albert
amazing.
this
That
year.
was for the folks that will follow Instagram, and you can put the handles out. Tell us the handles. That was it on
Instagram, Premier.Physio?
Is that where it was? I don't know where I saw it.
Yeah, it was on our story.
Was it? Yeah, it was the story.
Oh, the funniest
Yeah.
thing ever! I'm like, oh my gosh, it's great. I actually pushed the phone to hold the picture to examine it. I'm like, Ali, really well done,
Yeah.
right?
And then, I think what was the better part of it, like, she was prepping and, like, rehearsing, like, all week, like, saying my mannerisms. Like,
Working with him for this long, I can just like nail it.
Top 3 things he says most frequently.
Okay. Easiest part of the session, when you're hooked up at the end of the session after we've tortured you and you're on the IFC machine, that,
Hang on, and you most times have a coffee in your hand.
100%.
That's one.
Yeah. Don't work too hard. So
Yeah.
you leave, he'll say that. I don't know.
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
In
Like,
fairness.
he'll probably then just be like, okay, how's the coffee? Rate my coffee.
Oh, yeah, rank the
Top 20, top 10, top 5, top 3.
Hang on a second. Let's hang out in this space. If it's not within a top 3, what happens then?
He knows it won't be top 3. He says it all the time.
Like, I say, like, listen, it's a good coffee. Like, if someone who's well-versed in coffee...
Hang on. We're going to interrupt you. He says that, but does he actually mean that?
Honestly, probably not. But I think deep down he's like, say 5, say 5, say 5, say 5. And most times, like, the problem is, like, he stares at them. He's like, so what do you think of the coffee? And he's just like, dead, staring at them.
It tastes like coffee. It doesn't just taste like coffee. What do you mean? You know where those beans are from? Let me tell you a
Imported.
story.
So then the patient's like, oh, like, he's like, just looking at Albert, like, I guess it's pretty good. Like, what else are they going to say? God forbid, though, they say, I had a better one in ABC location. Albert starts. He gets excited. So I went to Columbia.
Finish this story. This is a really good story.
And then Albert's well-versed in coffee. We know that. And he's well-versed in traveling, too. So he just brings that out, too. That's what makes it fun. Then we connect over that.
Hang on, we're going to just, for the audience out there, going to close the story on Columbia to my knowledge of what I remember. He says he was riding a horse up a mountain. Could have been a donkey. But,
Most likely
To
was
be
a
aware,
donkey.
there's a mixture of donkey meets
and there was
horse.
a bunch of guys going up, and apparently they had a very active night the night before and didn't sleep very much. So they're climbing this hill on a bunch of donkeys, trying to keep their heads up. And the miraculous part is they got to the top of the mountain, I believe, and please fill in the gaps. And
Yeah.
they learned all about coffee and the bean. And you educated me, I'm going to say, with a bunch of information that I may never use, but was cool to know.
Yeah, you're never going to use it. It's the dumbest, useless, most information you'll
But,
get.
but it solidified for me is your love and appreciation for coffee.
I think the coffee beans and the coffee table achieve that, because what kind of idiot would do that?
Yeah, so folks, you can't see that, but there's
Yeah.
actually inlay here of coffee beans, and then it's epoxied over, so it's
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's a level of dedication that goes beyond excessiveness. So, but yeah, no, it was fun. We literally were in a coffee farm. I remember too. We're pulling up in the morning, and I was like, guys, we need to go coffee farm tour, horseback mountain. I was like, horse mountain, coffee farm tour. Like, yeah, sounds great. So I go book it. Literally the morning of, we look at the mountain. It's like, got to be 70 degrees up, and like, there's no way we're going up on this on a horse. It was a horse meets a donkey. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, and I remember everyone looking at me like, guys, we should have done more research. But it was a great time. So it worked out, and learned a lot about coffee. And, as I kind of go in the lecture of it, how there's like 3 different types of beans and so on and so forth. And people appreciate it. Like, whoa, okay, there's a lot to it. But
yeah, did you know much before that, or that was?
No, not like, so I knew about like coffee, like some of the standard stuff that people will know, like, okay, what you want to do with the machine, and you're going to kind of want to do certain setups with the machine and the bean to kind of get the most out of your coffee. But in terms of like, hey, what's actually going on with the bean, I didn't know much. I just assumed, right, you get a coffee bean, they're all the same, pretty ignorant to it. But after that, I was like, whoa, I know nothing. And it was crazy. It was a really cool learning experience. When you start it, they'll make you smell their most infamous coffee. That's their biggest export. When you first smell it, and you're like, whoa, this is incredible, like, so different. You're like, this is so amazing. And then you go through the whole thing. They teach you about the different beans, and you're smelling other ones, and you're seeing everything. And then they say, okay, you remember that first one you smelled? They're like, okay, go back into that one, and then smell it. And you're like, it actually smelled like shit. It was like, whoa. What an eye opener! And yeah, it was really neat. So,
well, thank you for sharing that. And that's part of my experience here, right? Is that I remember that story because of your passion for coffee, right? I also remember the day that the coffee machine went down, and that was just different.
The world almost ended over here.
Right?
It was anarchy.
Well, almost shut the clinic.
I'd be so curious to see how many coffees that machine's actually produced, because it's.
She's doing well back there.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
I've had her now, and I've lost count, but it's got to be closing in 10 years. So.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, because it was mine first, and then I just brought it in here because I kind of knew. But it's funny though, because like I brought it in here mainly for the staff. I was like, listen, I want to make sure everyone here has access to a great coffee. That was the main thing, and it kind of just sort of happened unintentionally, where I was like, you know what, let's just make coffee for everyone. And it was just like, obviously, as we were kind of just going through it, I was like, this is actually like a really unique thing that I was starting to see. That I was like, you know what, let's just offer it for everyone, and it became a thing. It just kind of was sort of then instilled into the culture or the experience of coming here, and so it was obviously just something like lean into, and it was just seeing so many positive aspects from it that now it's a staple.
For me, I'm a coffee enjoyer. I don't right now. I'm not drinking as much as I could be, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
I think that I appreciate going somewhere for a coffee. Like, hey, and I used to say, even with job sites, I'm like, the first thing we do is put an espresso because it was easy.
Yeah.
Right? But put a coffee machine here, right? Because it binds people together.
It does, and
hey,
so
man, like you can come in here and shoot the shit about anything. It's like, can I get you a coffee? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where like, for example, like when Ali was alluding to, like, right, we're going to see different people in different mindsets if they're down on themselves or whatnot. Or if, maybe someone is a bit more apprehensive, like just having that coffee is a bid for connection, right? And so, right, they're going to be way more easily or accessible to open up, so we can kind of really, go through things, unpack them, trying to obviously get them to, work on within themselves and help them to whatever goals they're trying to achieve. So it does so many little things just by one gesture that, we'd be a fool not to do it, right? And then obviously, as everything, as we always try and do, okay, we always have a fun time about it, being the best or not the best, and then have fun about talking, beans or et cetera with coffee in itself. So
yeah, and thank you for sharing this. I mean, I've had the pleasure of knowing you probably I don't know.
Probably as long as I've been here.
Probably as long. I was going to say that. I was going to say those words, and it's an honor and pleasure to have seen you really evolve and step up. And where I'm going with that is, if you go back far enough, like, what was it like when you first walked through the doors?
God.
Because I'm having a great conversation today, as we have many times.
Mm-hmm.
It was you weren't the same person you were several years ago.
Definitely not.
So tell us about that.
I think I was still finishing up my last placement of physio school, and I knew it was going to be like a long process to get certified and all that, and the last thing I wanted to do was like sit home and just wait. Like, I need to learn, I need to be out there. And I knew this kind of outpatient sports was always what I wanted to do with physio. I was still in placement Googling physiotherapy sports clinics around me.
Okay.
Albert's clinic was the first one that popped up. And I was like, let me just read a little bit. I read Albert's bio. I don't even know if I told you this.
No, I'm going
Okay.
for the first
Go on.
time.
I read his bio, and I instantly was like, okay, I'm sending an email. It was the fact that we both went to York, we both went to the UK for school, which was a, like, coming back of, didn't know how people would look at me going to the UK for school.
Okay.
That was when we both played soccer, we both coached. I was like, okay, I sent an email. I think I got a reply under half an hour. It was like, come in tomorrow. That night, I didn't think I slept. Showed up for like 25 minutes early. I sat over there in the corner of the parking lot and waited. I then walk in, and it was just like, I had no reason to be nervous. I opened the door, and Ange like, Alessia? I'm like, yeah? Do you want coffee? And I'm like, already shitting myself at this point. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna sit right here. And then he's like, okay, Albert's just with a patient, 1 second. And then he calls me back, and I don't think I moved from my spot over there. I sat, and I just waited. And he's talking, and I'm listening. I looked like a little child whose mother, like, ran away from her. I was so scared. But then as he was talking, I was like, okay, like, I have no reason to be nervous. It went great. Obviously, I'm here. And I've loved every minute since. Even the torture parts of Albert.
I've paid her to say all that good stuff.
So take the world in the audience out there, take us through the journey. So at this point, where were you? You were just finished school?
I had just finished my last placement.
So what does that mean?
So technically you're done school.
Okay.
I hadn't done the official graduation yet, because that's always a few months after. But I'm done. I got all my certificates, everything, and I had sent them to Canada to wait for that to get approved, because then you got to go through the whole credentialing process, the board exams and all that. So I'm still like fresh out of physio school with like 6 placements under my belt, but I knew I needed more. I knew I could have, like, I wanted to learn more than what I was given, and that's what I've been getting here. I'm still getting it, so.
Hang on a second though, because in my mind's eye, there was a period of time where, and I want to go into this, the on-the-job training, but what's that phase actually called in the physiotherapy world?
Like in physiotherapy school? Like the placements?
No, when you were here.
Oh, I was just a physiotherapy assistant. Some
Okay.
people choose to do that. I
Okay.
had friends that stayed home and did nothing.
Okay.
Or traveled, and waited for kind of Canada to be like, yeah,
Okay,
we
so
see your
right,
degree.
I remember that now. So
Mhm.
because in the physiotherapy assistant role, you're not yet certified because you're waiting for those documents to become.
I'm waiting to write the board exams.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
That was the long process of you and I talking about.
That was the long
Yeah.
process, right? And throughout all that, some of the things that I observed is just the way that the symmetry that was occurring, the trust that had formed, and the coaching from your aspect, the way that it transitioned to you, right? And I could see that even, again, through your evolution. Albert would ask questions and sometimes you'd be nervous, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're great at it.
Yeah.
And you come off and you ask questions. Good natured. Okay, tell me about this, tell me about this, right?
So it's one of those things where, like, as I've kind of had several students, whether new grads or residents or whatnot, and it was the same thing I was going to obviously do with Allie, and the whole goal was to have her obviously on board as a physio. So it's sort of going through this coaching or mentoring, if you will, is kind of what we call it, where we're just really teaching her how to think, right? So in our profession, it's called clinical reasoning, right? So like, how well are you clinically reasoning through stuff, your critical thinking, but as it relates to obviously in the clinical aspect. And so, right, as I always sort of advocate for it, it's got to be at the highest level. Now, it's very unfair for someone to obviously assume that's going to happen off the start or immediately, or be where it might be at someone 10 years in. But it was like, right, okay, start that process now. And it's not about teaching her what to do, or whether it's her or anyone else that we've had, right? We've got quite a big staff, but it's right, teach them how to think, right? So clinically reason through it. So question her thinking, making sure it's iron tight, it's all making sense. She's analyzing so many different things at once, which is massively difficult because I will nitpick it to a very, in-depth level, so that when she's spitting out these answers, I'm like, brilliant, that's great, right? So she can be so specific that she'll be highly effective.
The holistic, I'm gonna call wellness of being in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I was saying off camera, and I'll tell the audience out there, perhaps I'm at this stage in my life where I no longer trust one resource, right? If I go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, take this pill, not only will I do my own research, but this is true, I always, I use that word purposely, I always come to you and say, hey man, based on what you know, and your biases, your information, and your education, what do you know about this, right? Story, right?
Yeah.
Break fucking, first time I swore, but anyway, whatever. Shit happens now. Not 1 foot, 2 feet, right? Whatever the hell the outer part of that foot was, but 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And it was left foot, I come in, doctor had said, get an x-ray, get an ultrasound, and Albert had said, okay, show me the x-ray, right? Okay, you can do two things. Doctor's recommendation, and this is nothing against the doctor, doing the right thing based on the information. Hey, Jonathan, put your foot in a boot. Cool, it's my right foot. But now you can't drive. And I remember coming, and Albert says, yeah, we can do that. Or, Albert's, one of his can you tolerate the pain, right? Or
how spicy is it?
How spicy is it, right? On a level of 1 to 10, how spicy is it?
Yeah.
Well, shit, man, I'll work through the pain.
Yeah.
Okay, because we want to get blood flow, and you introduced me to blood flow restriction.
Yeah.
And I bought my own blood flow cups, which I took too far one day.
Way too far.
Do not leave them on for 20 minutes, because then you're like, holy crap. It was painful.
Then it's shock.
then it's
so it's like, shit, I left the blood flow on for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it hurt.
Yeah.
I know that's dangerous. You can't do that.
People are going to start wondering a lot of questions at that point.
My point is that you opened up and illuminated things for me that I didn't even know. I could have followed that script of putting a boot on, and you made it very clear. We can do that, and you're going to get muscle atrophy. We're going to have to work through the recovery. 6 weeks later, I break the other foot, same spot, other foot.
Yeah. It's so obviously in those scenarios, right, you have to evaluate the full context of the individual, the nature of the injury. A lot of those suggestions when people say that is just that they look at an x-ray, they'll see a fracture, and they go into autopilot. It's kind of what I was saying maybe just briefly before about obviously going through mentoring with Ali and teaching her how to think, right? It's that in those scenarios they'll just see fracture and then they go on autopilot in a reactive sense, and they'll just simply say, okay, fracture equals boot, 6 weeks, and then so on and so forth. And so when we actually truly evaluate the type of fracture that you had, in all reality, at post 6 weeks in a boot, you'll still likely have, quote unquote, an active fracture post x-ray. And so, we'll still take you out of the boot. So when we kind of evaluate from that perspective, it's, well, we don't really need it because you were able to walk fine, you didn't have any pain, you weren't going to be irresponsible of, jumping, running, doing things that would obviously put you at harm's risk for doing something much, much worse, right? So there's a lot to take into consideration in me just saying that, right? If you were someone with a different personality or different traits that maybe I couldn't trust as much, then, full stop, maybe despite that option being better for you, I'd say, right, in the safe regard, protecting you from you, if that was your behavior, right, boot for 6 weeks and we'll crack on from there, right? But for the best outcome for you, obviously, yeah, that's kind of the way to approach that. And so we want to be very specific to the individual, right? Take into all these different variables so we can be as effective as possible.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to volley this one over to you now because Albert's philosophies have organically through osmosis sort of transpired through to you.
Yeah.
By design and by you're ready to accept as well. Right? You're okay, I get this, and you sort of filter through it and stick whatever you enjoy sticks, right? What happens when you get somebody who is, let's just say, very certain on a diagnosis? It's like, this is the way it is. I know this. So what? How do you deal with that?
They're tough.
Sure.
I've had a few that I could remember that even after I pulled Albert aside, or Albert washed my face the whole session, and it was just tough. Honestly, you have to present to them, you have to be mindful for what they're thinking and what they're coming in with, and you listen to them, you let them spiel away and you listen, and then you have to be like, okay, I understand why you're thinking that, but you need to prove to them why it's not that, in the nicest way possible. But in a stern way that they understand that there's no room to kind of walk around what I'm saying as well. I'll pull up pictures and facts, and we're just really certain with what we tell someone, that yes, they came in with an image or an idea, whether it was from friends, from families, from Google, from doctors, but we're trying to shine light on what actually is really going on. And the way Albert's taught me and the way I've kind of spun it is I try to present it, and then I try to look at something in their life that they want to do or get back to and be positive about that. And then every time they come in, like Albert's kind of mentioned with me and mentored me on that, is you always need to be showing them why. So the first session, which is always the toughest to gain their trust, especially when a person comes in gung-ho on a certain situation. Okay, they kind of understood what I was saying, still not fully trusting me though, and you're just trying to slowly break down their walls in terms of their diagnosis they're so set on. And then they come in the second session, and I'm very particular now that Albert's ingrained it into me. Everything I do, I explain why. And with some people, they just understand. They're like, oh, I get it. First session you said I have to be strong on 2 feet before I get on one leg. Now I see him on one leg today. It makes sense. Whereas some people, they're like, I don't get it. And then that's why I'm like, okay, we're doing this today because you're having trouble getting out of the car. The next session, like, how was your squat? Oh, I got it in and out of the car perfectly fine. And I'm like, okay, guess what we're going to do today? We're going to do the stairs. We're going to break down the stairs in multiple spots. This is functional. This is going to get you back to playing with your grandkids. And the first session, with your initial assessment, we always ask, what do you want to do? What do you want to get back to doing? And there's some people that they're like, oh, I used to run, but I know that's not possible. And then Albert, which now I say exactly word for word what Albert says, you want to run, we'll get you to run. Easy, done. And then we explain what you need to do to get to running. And then they don't believe us until they're jumping in here. And they're like, holy crap. Like, I'm 3 weeks away from running. And we're like, yeah, we told you first assessment, you're going to get back to running.
So you're actually spending a lot of time connecting to the person.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to reiterate what I said initially, because they'll go home and they'll do their exercise I sent, or some of them won't do their exercises, and they forget the purpose of what I'm trying to give to them. Then they come back in, and then you have to evaluate it. Already before they come in, I already kind of know their session. But then when they come in and they go, I'm worse than before, you have to tailor it. You have to quickly adjust, but then also tell them why and show positivity in that as well, because it happens. It's never linear. We notice that with physio. Some people, you'll luck out, it's very linear. Most of the times it's not, and you need to really let that person know to trust you, that it's up, it's down, but progress is never measured the same in every individual. And we say it all the time. Some people will be focused on the pain and not look at anything else. And we're like, okay, yes, you have pain, but you did the stairs today. Did you do the stairs yesterday? No shot. And then they'll come in the week after like, okay, it's still painful, but I walked around the whole block with my kids. And you have to look at things like that and what's important to them and try to remind them of that.
What do you do to really calm the anxiety and bring the energy from here to here? Because I'm making an assumption, so please clarify. Some folks are going to walk in with a little bit of shame and guilt around perhaps their progress, whether they did their exercises or didn't, or they may not relinquish all of the information to you wholeheartedly. How do you sort of, again, solidify that, bring that gap closer, and perhaps the word is build that trust?
I just really try to show, like we all do in here, even Damien, who's not here, and even Vanessa, who's our massage therapist, she does it, she listens, they talk all the time in there. I just try to listen to what they're telling me and then try to bring them back to a point where like, okay, it is doable though. Everything you've told me is doable. I'm not one to kind of talk over them when they speak. I let them listen, but I try to cut the conversation before they get down that rabbit hole. I try to bring them back and be like, okay, yes, I understand you're saying that, but look at what you've done in here. Or you just told me you walked with your kids. Like, let's think of that and how we can use that to kind of push ourselves forward. I think I'm a pretty positive person in here with people. I tend to be. And I really like to push people on that. I try to have them smiling and laughing pretty early on in the session. My stupid jokes work every time. Albert's stupid jokes, because now they're my stupid jokes.
It
Okay,
worked
so-
the best the first time. She's probably tired of them, but you understand why they work.
Yeah.
They hit the first time. She's like, but if I have someone new and like she'll be in the back with someone else, and then I can see her like just mouthing what I'm about to say because she knows it. I'm like, but listen, it works the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You said something that's very interesting to me, and how you show up for others is a big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be game changing. It can really set the tonality on the conversation and everything else
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. What do you do for yourself to get into that mindset, to flip the script? Because there's days where, we all have good days and then, less than desirable days. And,
Mm-hmm.
we can come in here tired, exhausted, physiologically not set, you name it, a bag of potatoes. What do you do to go from like, holy shit, I'm here and I gotta elevate myself?
It's hard, especially the hours we work sometimes and the amount of people we see. But it's just, for myself in general, I knew that going into physio, I went in to be a physio to help people, not to just kind of be a physio and say, oh, I could fix you. And I find the best part of my days are talking to people, regardless of the injury, kind of finding out about them or their kids or their family, and we find it fun. Like, I've gone outside of the clinic to see patients who have now graduated or becoming graduated play their first sports games back. I was just at a volleyball tournament for one of my patients who hasn't played volleyball since January. So it's that what really excites me in here, and that's why I became a physio. I've said it, I think, from a little girl. I've always wanted to be a physio for the purpose of getting people back to what they want to do and what they love to do, not just to say, I know how to fix an
Hang on,
ankle.
so you knew early on exactly the pathway you want to go down?
Grade 3 is the first earliest I have written down. You know, when you go to school and they say, what do you
Yeah.
want to be when you're older? It says physio.
Grade 3, hang on a second. Grade 3, you're going to be like 7 years old?
I was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years
Mhm.
old. How the hell do you know what physiotherapy is?
Oh, because I got hurt all the time.
Okay.
I was a soccer player.
So what, this is, like, what
Mm-hmm.
do you remember, if you recall, like, what is it that said, this is what I want to do?
I think it was growing up in sports a lot that kind of rolled that on for me. I was the player that kind of got hurt and then didn't tell anybody and then just played, and then when I was limping to bed, my mom goes, something's not right. Then I'd go to physio, and it was the reason why I lucked out with a physio when I was little, who was always like, this is what's happening, this is what we're gonna do. And in my head, it was that or something that can make a difference in someone's life. It was that or a doctor, like everyone. But the more I grew up, or the more I played soccer, the more I was in that, it was, okay, I need to be a physio, I need to fix people. I need to get them back to doing what they love to do. And that only flourished even in physio school. My placements in neuro, in ICU, getting someone to walk again for the first time. I remember my first stroke patient that I got to walk for the first time in front of his wife. That hit hard. My ICU patient that went from ventilator to picking up his kid with me, that hit hard. It's like little things like that. So, my volleyball player that I got to watch for the first time last week, that hit hard. And that's what's going to drive me, that the next person that comes in, athlete or not, to do that.
And never wavered. Like, you knew,
Never.
wow.
Never.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a tough gig too, right? Like, I think the average career length for a physio, it's on just under 10 years. So you got to really love it to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And I'm just taking a deep breath because that's pretty cool. Like, you're actually living your dream, literally.
Yeah.
You threw it out at 7, 8 years old into the universe and said, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And shit got curated that way.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason that there's a reason you're here inside this space.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like every other place. This is the opposite of transactional. This is the opposite of widget. This is the opposite of, how many, I'm going to use this framework, and it's not necessarily appropriate, but some folks look at it this way. How many widgets can I push through the door?
Yeah.
Usually the exact opposite. You're like, hold on. I hear you both say it before. Like, our objective here is, I want to help you get back to your life, and I don't want to see you again. right? And it's not
Yeah.
being rude. It's just
No,
like,
no.
that means that, high five team, we've done our job. The reality is that once people are here, we know
Yeah.
they get so much more out of it, because it's not just fix my shoulder, okay, I'm back, right?
Well, it's kind of like what Ali was saying, right? Like it's something that we kind of started doing where we have, more particular our athletes, just because there's more of a ceremonious graduation. When it's something so severe, like, obviously the one person she's talking about who had a significant injury and has been out of volleyball for a while, so it was pretty significant that we kind of support not just our athletes, but the people that are in here, where we go kind of see their first game. There's a couple of people that we've had that have, like, the more common ones, like ACL reconstructions, or I can't even remember anyone else off the top. Like other, like bigger injuries that, or like it's been like reoccurring stuff, and we'll go and support them, so we'll watch their first game back, and it's just kind of highlight or demonstrate, like that's just kind of what we want to do, right, is really see them through and follow through on our word, right, when we say, hey, like we're going to be here to get you back, that we'll be right there with you to see you through it. So yeah.
Okay, top of mind for me now, right? Here's, we're going to flip the script on this one. So now we've talked about building trust, right? What you often say is that, trust is the currency of the future.
Correct.
Tremendously demonstrated through the connections to people, understand who they are, and the unwavering, passionate desire to really amplify them and help them enjoy life. Opposite side of the teeter-totter now. How do you know? Because I'm sure you could sense it right away when somebody walks through the door and goes, "Thank you, but no thank you. You're the person that we don't want here." If that makes sense. How do you identify that? Like, what's the? I've been part of some of the discussions, overhearing some of the stuff, but.
So it's been I'd say, unique challenge, right? Is that when people come in, they may have previous experiences that they will sort of throw upon what we will be doing, which will be wildly different. So that's why we spend so much time and effort to formally educate, to inform them, break things down to such detail, right? The whys, that's kind of what I was alluding to, that we always make things make sense. It's not that we're going to share an opinion or what we think. It's like, hey, what do we know? Which is at that point there, when it's a scientific sort of perspective, in an academic sense, I'm not sharing an opinion. It's there's truth to this, and make it make sense. So we're not selling you something. And so obviously we can quickly tell that people don't value any of that. They just kind of want what they feel will help them, and that's where we kind of try to inform them about the disparity of symptoms, right? Like, if we treat a symptom, we're not actually fixing an issue, right? And so I will always tell, like, Ali or Damien or anyone else, right? Like, use metaphors people can relate to. And it's not because, for them to argue the metaphors, just for a way to understand for them what we're trying to say, and maybe a bit more of an in-depth level in regards to what their issue is that, if we're treating a symptom, it's like a sign, right? So, like, say, in your world of construction, as you kind of always, work in, is that if we have a leaky pipe and I just keep putting tape over, we're not fixing a problem. The symptom or sign of just water leaking from a pipe. And so we keep doing that. So if we're doing what the individual wants, we're clearly not a professional, right? Now, that being said, right, what hill do we die on, right? So, okay, we'll make sure we formally educate this, that, and the other. If they're so adamant of something, to not necessarily lose them, not for the sake of, in a business perspective, but lose them from giving up on themselves to maybe not have a proper outcome, right? So if they're looking for something, right, we'll probably maybe just do it just to kind of abide by it, but make sure we're doing all the things that will make sure they're going to have the outcome they're looking for.
Okay, and there's tremendous power in saying no. So how do you respectfully say thanks but no thanks?
There's never one way to say it. It's always contextual to the conversation, or what maybe there might be a disparity on. Reading the individual, but fundamentally there's just going to be a standard across the board that we just treat everyone the same. And so if they're trying to value something that, hey, we're just not simply able to sort of facilitate for them that they're looking for, the reputation will always go above and beyond. And so we'll say, like, this is what we do. We're going to obviously be sort of the best in what we're trying to execute. If for some reason there's just not a fit, hey, with all respect, maybe, going somewhere else might be the best fit for you, right? So, but everything here is designed for it to provide the best outcome in all different aspects. It's all thoroughly thought out. And so as we educate that, if there is some form of understanding, and we educate that and they're still not willing to understand or see what we're trying to do, then it's like, hey, I know, unfortunately, if, you're still valuing something that, we're not necessarily going to be helping you with, then it might be best for them to go.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest word that stuck out for me is education.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I know for myself and my family holistically, that we've gotten out of here. It's pretty powerful, and thank you both for not only educating me, but educating our children, right? And my wife, who is resistant to a lot of different things, but she'll come and see you, and she loves coming to see you. So whatever drug you're giving her or whatever it is, keep it up. But all I know is,
it's opium in the HVAC.
Yeah, like I come home and I go like, she's like, oh, don't touch me, like it hurt. I can't touch you here. I can't touch you here. Like, holy smokes! Because you're doing work on her that it's opening up whatever it's doing for her, right? And she's actually becoming educated on it, which is nice because it keeps her connected and it creates a dialogue even for us.
Mm-hmm.
But the education piece for me is every time I come in here, no bullshit, I learn something new. I mean, I'm looking across there's a creatine thing there, and I'll never forget, we've had some in-depth conversations about creatine and misconceptions that in my 20s I thought it was for, one thing, and now I take it every day because of everything you've educated me on to, the peptides and everything. Look, I came in here and I got introduced to blood flow cuffs. Right?
Day one.
Bought them. I bought the the TENS machine, right? I'm like, ooh, this thing is amazing, right? And this is true story. Now, every time I travel, that TENS machine comes with me, right? In fact, Karina uses it all the time. Or even if we go for a long drive, I'm like, just put it on, and it's sitting up here, and I like the controls. So I'm like,
This is the coercion of it.
Yeah, right. So, thank you for
Yeah,
the
no
education
worries.
piece, right?
And that's the number one thing that, I value in making sure we deliver, right? And that will demonstrate, us from anyone else. And so if we're able to achieve that, one, it'll help just the individual, too, to understand what's going on. Because if you don't understand what's going on, you'll just think you're doing things senselessly. And so, that typically won't have a good outcome. And they'll just give up on themselves, which they won't have a good outcome. It's a reflection on the profession, which that would be poor and appalling. So we try to do our very best, and when we do that, obviously we tend to have a very good outcome for a majority of the people. You can't help everyone, and so that number tends to be quite small, but unfortunately that's just the reality of people, right? So
Well, thank you. I want to pivot back to you now because we've touched on Ali's dreams a little bit, so thanks for allowing us in.
Yeah.
And I mean this, like, you've done an exceptional job here. Just
Thank
not
you.
only the facility and the atmosphere and the environment, and I'm going to use this word, and it's a fluffy word, but the culture that you've created. You surrounded yourself with great people, and at times, we've had lots of discussions where there's practitioners that come to the door, and they either fit or they don't, but you oftentimes know.
Yeah, it's. I think I've said it more than one occasion. Like the number one thing I'm most proud of is the team that we have, and when I get complimented on that, that's probably my absolute favorite. And anything that Premier achieved is not me. It's we. It's the team across the board in all levels, right? So for me, my job is just to facilitate that for them, and then have them do it, and I'll just sit in the background and be there, bitch boy. But there's obviously a standard, though. I'll always make sure it is upheld, and if it's not met, and unfortunately it might not be for everyone, then hey, that's just a reality that unfortunately not everyone will ensure to the highest standard, and if they don't necessarily fit that, then maybe might be the best fit here, but somewhere else it might be okay for them. And so. But culturally, we want a good group of people. I like to say, like, lean muscle mass, and so don't want to be adding people just because of a necessity or a need. But yeah, just the team itself is my number one proudest moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
And I want to come to your vision several years ago. We're 3 years in this location.
Yeah, just under.
About 3 years. And you've shared some of the stories about fitting this place up and some of the hurdles and pitfalls and the highs and lows of starting a place from literally the ground up.
Yeah.
Is this the vision, or is there still more to come?
Yeah, there's a lot more to come, to be honest with you.
But I guess there's a loaded question, but let me back that up. Did you always envision, or what was it? I guess I don't want to lead the question. So what was the initial vision?
There's layers to it, for sure. For me, it was, I'd say the first bit is obviously in facilitating and creating a space where I can ensure that clinically the standard of care is top quality. So it started off making sure, unfortunately, doing a startup where I literally designed every millimeter of the space. So clinically we can execute that. And then the vision was to create a culture in a facility where we can operate and deliver physiotherapy at the highest level, in degrees in which the clinical reasoning is at a depth people will be second to none. And so we're still working on it. It's still, I always say that this place is probably 10% of my full vision, and so slowly trying to kind of get her going, but can't be more thrilled with what we've been able to do thus far. Obviously it's very different than other places, so it's been a challenge at times, for sure. But fundamentally it's going to be just a place where people can just unanimously and consensually say, right, sports medicine at the highest level with the depth that staff knows, that it'll be second to none. And so I'd say fundamentally it'll be that, and then long term that with other sort of disciplines around it that support that. So
thank you. And it's miraculous, and I don't know how you do it, but because you spend a lot of time here.
I live here unofficially.
Well, you managed to somehow keep the vision curated and evolving in your head, because you're always reaching out to folks, and I love you for this. Is you're tremendously patient. Hey, let's try to do something here. Let's try to bring this piece in. You're trying to bring all the. You're not trying. You're actually making a very strong attempt to bring puzzle pieces in to help everybody grow.
Yeah.
Right. And yet you're still in the trenches. You're still doing this. So.
It's it's a fun time, I'll tell you that much. It's difficult, I'm not gonna lie to you, just because I always say, like, I basically have 2 full-time jobs, and I work part-time at my 1 full-time gig, and so that's kind of like one of the struggles, right? I think with any business that first starts out, that you have to work in it to have that, but then you equally try to work on it, and so that's always a struggle, and so. I do my very best to kind of balance that, and you're never going to have a perfect balance or an equal balance, but whenever you have that moment when you can work on it and do these things to grow the place and help people and put all these different parts of the full vision together, I'll try to, and then equally work in it as well, right? So it becomes very, very difficult, but it's usually why, like, I try to give myself some time when I'm working on something, trying to give me a bit of breathing room to get it done because I am in here, or I'll block time off to try and get things done. So, and I feel bad too, because then, especially now, there's a lot going on in a good sense, that it's kind of hard for me to catch up. Like, I haven't really had a chance to socially just catch up with Ali, Ange, Damien, Vanessa, Julia, that it's like, hey, what's going on? Like, I've been running around like an idiot. So,
which is hard for you, because I know that's a very important piece of your life.
Yeah.
And you said something that I really want to illuminate for the folks out there. You do something that many are not willing to do, right? Which is get in the trenches and do the work side by side. Because now, Albert's there. He understands what your pain points are because he's on the floor working it with you, and he sees it, and he lives it. And yet there's so many individuals out there. And yeah, I'm calling you up, folks. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling you up to be better than that. It's the framework of everybody wants to win a championship, but nobody wants to sweep the barn that they play in, right? And you're demonstrating the exact opposite. You're like, not only are we going to amplify and elevate this place holistically together, like, if you got to empty the garbage, just clean the toilets, you do it. It's just got to get done.
I think the funniest thing is, like, Ali will always kind of see me, I'm like picking stuff off the floor and putting it in the garbage, or like, I think she's got like a nice roster of like funny like pictures and videos of me like steam mopping the floor and stuff. But yeah, it's just one, you have to have a lot of pride in it and you have to care, right? That'll kind of be demonstrated. And like, how can I cultivate a culture if, they don't see me doing it? So like if I don't care, then how can they care? If I ask them to do it, it's like, oh, he's just telling us what to do and making us do all this stuff. And so it's hard for anyone to respect anything, right? So yeah, I don't know. I guess that people always kind of, confuse a boss versus a leader. A leader will demonstrate it from the back and do everything, and you're supporting everyone. Like, it's funny. I think the one thing I always annoys me is that people glorify someone owning a business, and they think, oh, it's all the luxury things, right? Meetings, this, you go out here, that, and the other. I'm like, no, a true leader will make sure you're supporting each individual, so you're doing more bitch work, as sort of that, labeled coin term of it all, to support who you have within your space, right? So that annoys me when people think that. I'm like, no, a true individual will understand that, and so that way you can cultivate a culture for everyone that is there to grow, right? And by no means is anyone bigger than the team, right? So.
Yeah, and I want to pivot to something special. I think you know where I'm going. You're already laughing. So this is interesting. When we talk about supporting each other and being there and sort of reading the room, I'm looking over there at that Burger King crown that Vanessa's going to throw over. Vanessa tossed over that Burger King crown. So if there's a Burger King, for the folks out there, there's a Burger King in the same plaza. I don't know, what is the address here? Whatever the address.
4451 Tesson Road.
There you
go.
go.
Across. They're 4471.
They're literally across over there. But I remember it was first thing in the morning. I like the first thing in the morning appointments. I usually get Ali or Albert fresh and one-on-one, and we get to have some really great conversations. But I walk in, and this crown was up on the shelf over there. And I think Angie was here, or maybe not. I don't remember exactly, but you were definitely here.
Yeah.
All right.
I was here.
What's the story with the Burger King crown? Like, did I miss something? And when I say that I didn't know what I was in for until I heard the story, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for it, because you didn't sugarcoat shit. You told me the whole story in confidence, and it touched, moved, and inspired me. So, can we get into that story again and share as much as you can?
It was a day.
It was an evening.
It was an evening. Damien was here, Albert, and myself, and Vanessa.
Yeah,
we were all here. It was we were packed.
Did we have someone else here too? I think we had some help. I can't remember. Anyway.
I can't remember. I know us four were here for sure.
Yeah.
We all had a pretty busy schedule, and that's one of the things I love working with Albert and Damien, and even in the open space that Albert has so well thought out. Although we are managing so many people, I can shout to Albert, can you get him to do this for me? And vice versa.
Right.
All our patients, yes, they know Albert, but they know Ali and Damien as well.
Yeah, because you guys are always sort of tag-teaming and telling, okay, take care of this, okay, and you're calling out. Which
is where the trust comes from. And so it was one of those nights where we're just like shifting and moving, and it was just a long night. And unfortunately things had happened, and everyone had left at this point, and I think all of our faces were just drained from the day, and we decided to all hang around the clinic a little longer. Everything was closed and done, and we had fun. We had some food. We got to talking, and Damien and I went across the street to Burger King. We needed it. I came back.
Okay. We're going to, can we, we're going to get into the story,
okay.
Right? We're going to get into the story a lot more, because the stories what touched me and inspired me, and if it doesn't work, then we'll edit it out. But it's a story. So I'll share what I know.
Okay.
So I walk in, and Ali, what happened? And you were with a patient that something very uncharacteristic occurred.
Mm-hmm.
You're working on this individual, going through whatever procedures you were going through, and they passed out, or no, they had a seizure. Is that?
No, so we could say like some parts, but keep it very vague. So it was basically, we had someone where had to call an ambulance. We had to obviously go through things where it was pretty intense. Had to make sure like medically there was nothing like very, very concerning, which thankfully as we kind of went through certain things, That wasn't the case, but still needed to have someone in an ambulance. And obviously we had to, me and Allie were kind of with them by their side there the whole time, but equally we had a full caseload, and then Damien's there, and we're just trying to make sure to equally not mess up anyone else's session to,
That's the part I want to get into, because that's how you described it to me. It's full house, everybody's all hands on deck, and you, in your humbleness and calmness, right? The way you described it is you kind of just looked over at Albert and said, I need you now, right?
Yeah, I think I shouted at him, to be fair.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was like, in a mission critical situation, here's how we handled this, right? Uninterrupted, by the way, right? This is like happening with other people, and it just went on in queue, and that's that trust where it was that look over, I got your back, let's do this. You take care of all the fundamentals, the medical things you got to take care of, cool. Then the night sort of concludes, and what was that like? You just look at each other and go like, fuck.
Collectively, I think so, 100%.
It was there's like obviously a lot of details we're leaving out, but honestly, I was pretty impressed with the whole team, to be honest. Like the way Damien and Allie and Vanessa and myself, like we just took that and handled that. But it was a lot. Like it was something that I've dealt with before. I don't think Allie had it. I know Damien hadn't, and I'm not sure about Vanessa, but they were all a little shooken up by it. So I was like, all right, okay, we just kind of stayed here. We were shooting the shit. Just okay, let's debrief. Just okay, let's obviously have a bit of fun to relax and take their mind off of it and de-stress with it. And the Burger King, we were just joking around with the Burger King crowns, and we were having some fun with it. And they went next door and got a whole bunch of Burger King and got a bunch of crowns, and we were just having a good way to de-stress with it. And obviously, I could see they definitely needed it. It wasn't like it was a lighthearted situation. There was a lot going on, so, but it was good. It was fun.
And you see, the thing is, you celebrated it, right? Like you acknowledged each other.
Yeah.
Because that's the heavy part of the day that happens. The other, you could have just dismissed it like, oh, okay, see you guys tomorrow. Gone home and had to process that yourself, or not. But it's been like, holy shit, heavy day. Instead, we sort of just we got together. We acknowledged, this was uncharacteristic, and I'm sure you're very proud, right? To say we high five team, we did this well. Like,
You don't, not that we want to ever have that again, but
That's
No.
not.
yeah.
No, but
But it
this
was,
is where you fall back onto your training, and it's just like, okay, the habits, rituals, routines came into play, and because you know each other so well, right? It's no different than a sports team. I know where this person's going to be, and if I throw them a puck, they're going to be around the corner. Like you just knew each other.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, especially with Damien, and we can all do it. Like I think that's probably a fun thing for us when we're all three going at the same time. We just look at each other, and we know and we'll all help each other as we have all full caseload and communicate who needs what, this, that, and the other, and just so that we can have everyone in a very succinct manner as they kind of have their caseload and the flow of their schedule, and to make sure everyone is on point. So that was that was a fun time. We'll say that much.
So the Burger King came into play because it was later on at night and it was open, and we needed to celebrate something.
We need to celebrate.
Yeah, it was
Hence
more.
the picture on the Instagram of me squatting with my Burger King crown.
Yeah. I think Damien has a couple in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. But definitely needed it after that one. That was a heavy evening for sure. I think we'd get out to 10:30.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for sharing all that.
No worries.
I want to pivot back to you for a second now. You've been here long enough, and your relationship with Albert is pretty dynamic. Like, you know each other very well. Top of mind for you, if I was to say to you, and you fill in the gaps, so I can always count on Albert for, I can never count on him for.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
And, I know he's having a rough day when.
Ooh. Okay. I can always count on him for supporting me. I can never count on him to be somewhere on time. Ever.
Waiting for that one.
That's my job. That's Andrew's job.
Yeah.
What was the third one?
Wow.
Something I'm having a bad day.
Oh, you're having a bad
I
day.
know he's having a bad day. There's a lot, actually.
Oh shoot! I thought
Ooh, I'm
there was none.
he'll come in quiet in the morning more often if he's having a rough day, or he's 3 espressos deep already before he walks into the door.
Okay, wait 1 second. Unpack this now. He comes in. What's a version of quiet versus not quiet? Like you know that he's had a good day or a good morning.
Albert is typically a very cheerful person. Some patients have said he's better AM versus PM.
Yeah,
PM
I don't
versus
understand that bit.
I will agree.
Oh.
He typically comes in, morning guys, morning Sarge, that's what we call Ange. And then he goes right into working. Other days you'll see he just walks in and we're like, oh, we'll wait. He undresses, he goes to the kitchen, he grabs an espresso, and then we're like, morning. He's like, morning guys. And we're like, okay. He just needed a second to compose before getting into it.
So how do you pivot through that? Because you know now it's like, okay, let's amplify him. Like,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what a solid team does is, you know, captain's down and out.
Yeah.
Let's make him shine. What do you do to really curate that?
Ange and I or Damien and Vanessa too, will rotate either trying to get him involved into a conversation maybe, something that's funny, or I know he can't say no if I get him involved into a patient's conversation. So if I'm talking to a patient, I'll be like, Albert, she just said something, and now he's in.
Oh.
And now he's got to put on a smile.
So you know he wants to put his opinion in there.
When it's something that really matters to him. I remember...
What would you say was really matters to him?
Coffee, traveling, anything that I could really get him with an opinion
Wait,
on.
what's a trigger for him now? They're like, oh, this is going to really twist him if I start talking about, you know, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't even know if it's accurate. Like, I don't know how silly soccer is. I don't know. Like, what's a topic that you know is just going to really. He could be in the corner. You could say something.
There's a few.
He's going to perk him up and he goes, what?
There's a few. If I make fun of his NFL team or make a comment about that, that will get him going.
Yeah,
usually.
Ears are percolated.
And that will just like spiral. And then 25 minutes later, I was like, oh, I just needed him in a better mood. I didn't need it to go. That's a good one.
that
one's probably the easiest one to get him going for.
Yeah.
Hang on. So now that you've sort of poked him, started the engine, does he hang on to that? Like he's got to be last at it. He's got to win the battle.
Oh yeah.
So like you can
I'll
say
walk
something,
away at
and like
once.
25 minutes later he brings up something again.
Oh yeah. That's what I love about him. Though. That's what I love about him. But yeah, I walk the other way. just goes.
And he has to validate. Does he validate it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so now illuminate for the rest of the audience there. When we're talking NFL team, who's your NFL team of choice?
Well, good news is that they're like first in the AFC, so hopefully when this comes out, they don't tank. But it's the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. So there you go, audience. I mean, you can.
Like, listen, like this is what I always say. We've rented and subleased the AFC West division to the Chiefs for the last decade. Prior to that, we've owned that division. So.
Okay, so hang on. Now I'm curious. If I really want to just really like subconsciously piss him off, what's the worst team jersey I can walk in here with?
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
Yeah.
100%.
But like, you know what? At least like I won't be the only one. I feel like that's the now one public enemy number one across the NFL. So
I don't watch enough football to even know otherwise, but I was in here the other day and somebody was bashing the Cowboys, which, you know, I could see. Yeah, it triggered you a little bit. And I think you said it. I think he's like, yeah, he knows that she's a Cowboys fan. Right?
That's what he'll use, though.
Yeah.
That's his thing to... Other than blue, though, I'll walk away and he's like, at least you're not a Cowboys fan like Ali. And I turn around, I'm like, I'm not even in the conversation.
You know, the reason why, though, is majority of... Like, we have a lot of NFL fans, so football is one of the things we talk about with about everyone, just about everyone. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are also Cowboys fans. They have, like, one of the biggest fan bases, so we just naturally take a general chirp at Ali and everyone who is a Cowboys fan. It's like being a Leafs fan of the NFL.
At least the Cowboys won in the 90s. Like, they were a good team. The Leafs are 60 years deep.
But like now they're just basically the same.
Not the same.
They're about the same. Like, and she'll admit it too.
I will admit it.
Yeah.
Okay, so hang on. So this is, thank you for this, right? And we're just pretend he's not there for a second, but I can flip the script. So now you know what the triggers are to piss him off. But what are on the opposite end of the spectrum, what is something that you can lean into that you know is going to either make him smile, laugh, or just lighten his day? There's always, is there something you do say or
I don't think there's anything in particular. I think Ange and I, just because we see him a lot more in the mornings and things like that, have a good understanding of just asking about his day or making what we did over the weekend or something we did overnight just to try to get him into the conversation. We'll do the same thing with Damien and Vanessa and Julia, like get them involved in like, what'd you do this weekend? And all it takes is someone to say, they went to this restaurant and Albert's in. He's like, where? Why? Let me tell you my restaurant. It could be Vanessa saying she went to the movies and Albert's like, where? Why? My movie. And
Okay. So hang on. What have you learned about his philosophies on restaurants?
He's a tough critic, I would say.
Okay, tell me more.
But he's a simple guy, I would say. I don't think it takes much to like wow him. It's like solid food.
Define
I know
solid food.
his like go-to restaurants at this point.
Mm.
Like if we had to take Albert somewhere, we knew we would take him without a doubt where we would take him.
Yeah.
There's like
What's that food of choice?
depending the mood of Albert, there's a
Oh,
solid
God.
Italian spot he loves and he would go to.
So Italian's top choice, okay.
Then there's a great sushi spot which he will tell everybody about.
Okay.
This
I need
isn't just my
code.
information.
Oh, Vanessa just got it about like 20 minutes ago, by the way. But was I wrong though?
No, you're not wrong.
See?
And
It's
like
so good.
he just has like this bank full of knowledge. She's like, yeah, I'm not worried about your need. Let's talk food. And he's like, where do you want to go? And they'll say like Greek.
Okay,
He's
so
like,
yeah,
this
so
spot.
top three menu choices for him are what? Sushi, Italian.
Yeah.
Albert's a great cook though, so if he's got the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the food where it's like, you know he doesn't enjoy, so you can just overhype it like this is the best X, and it's just gonna like tighten him up.
I don't know if it,
Like for me, it's Indian food. I don't really enjoy Indian food, right? So somebody can tell.
I don't think Albert's got. I think I would just lead like, Albert, you want a Tim Hortons coffee? And roll with that instead. Starbucks.
yeah.
I think I brought him a chai tea latte once, and that's only because he was like super sick, and he took it. But I'm like in my head, he's probably like, I'm only drinking this because I'm sick.
So what happens if you show up like with a Starbucks coffee?
He makes a comment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He makes a comment because I leave it on the counter back there while I'm talking to everybody.
Especially because the name is like this long. It's a tall, grande, super sized like oat. I can just imagine like, what the hell is this shit? And you
What?
paid $10 for what?
Was
Let
it
me go
one-
push the button.
The one time, like you and Damien, like Starbies, and I was like, "What's Starbies?"
Oh yeah, Damien came in with Starbies once.
And like, "Oh, like Starbies order," and I'm like, "What the hell is like? What am I missing?"
I don't know. Is that Starbucks? Is that short?
Yeah,
short
it's a
for
short.
Starbucks.
I'm like, this is disgusting. I feel nauseous. So, but and they're like, they have like like a specific order, and it's like a whole new language, and I'm like, what are we doing? But yeah.
It's never a simple milk and sugar coffee. I'll be like, Damien, what do you want?
Oh gosh. Okay, so hang on. So we're gonna go back. Albert walks in, and you can see that energy is like down here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys like text back and forth to each other, and like you and Angie or who's ever here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You ask him. No, you ask him. I asked him last time.
I could probably pull up text. Be like,
I'm
"You think
curious."
he's okay? Yeah. Let's give it a 5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna ask him. And then I'll ask him something, and he could answer like, not even cold, because Albert's not a mean person, but it's just his tone's off. And I guess Ange and I, who are so used to him, are be like, oh, I go back around here. I'm like, yeah, something's up. And Ange then switches me, like tag team. She goes that way, and then I stay there. And then she's like, she comes back. She's like, yep, he didn't talk to me while I was folding towels. Something really wrong.
So you're evaluating on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are we at right now? What's the temperature?
We're just like, okay. It's like, Albert, almond croissant.
Food, eh? It's gotta be food.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was at one point I think we were having like an almond croissant once a day. We had to stop. That was
We had
bad.
to stop.
That was getting bad.
Lead by example.
Yeah. I think it was like
can't-
unanimous. Okay, healthy now.
And I can't remember. I mean, I want to say cookies. Is it cookies that if it's a good cookie, you're
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
It's sugar for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sugar, chocolate, treats. Being here like around the holidays is like the worst.
It's the best time.
You didn't know. I mean, like sarcastically, the worst. Well, like, was it? We had like a bunch of those Tim Hortons cookies. Those
Oh,
are
the-
solid.
yeah.
The smiley face ones.
Well, smileys, yeah.
When you and was it you and Christian came with
Yeah,
the
we
cookies?
have a picture of you guys bringing us cookies for
Yeah.
Christmas last
With
year.
the,
Oh, that was-
the
yeah, that's
logo.
right.
Do
Yeah.
you remember that one?
Yes, yes, of course I remember that one.
And then it's
He
just
made
like-
2 different batches because the first batch was like, I don't like this logo, try again.
Yeah.
It was really sweet, and then we'll have people, like patients, who bring like their Italian cookies or just little treats, and then they sit in the kitchen, and then one by one you go in the kitchen and you grab one. And you
But this is what we're talking about. If you didn't create the culture of coffee, what's the next best thing with coffee? A cookie or something sweet,
Yeah.
right? I don't know many places that we go into and have that culture. Yet I can tell you that coffee and sweets connects people,
Yeah.
right?
It's well, I always like to say like, hey, we do it for the goodness of our heart, but sometimes we just do it good for the goodness of our waistline because we have so many like treats in there. Like, let's give them out to everyone with a coffee. Well, no, but we're just being nice. But yeah, no, it's again like I kind of said before, it's just that sort of gesture where you have that connection and there's things that we'll always want to make sure we focus on, right? The clinical trust, which we've alluded to, but then you kind of want to have them socially and culturally, right? So the coffee is just one aspect to it, and so we'll just keep doing it.
So I'm going to pivot to you now because I noticed you have an iWatch and you have the Android version or whatever, and I noticed that you checked that. So I'm curious now, and I had no idea of this. But now, if the tables are turned and you notice that Alessia, I'm going to say I love that, so I'm going to
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's
right.
fair.
She comes in and you can see like shoulders are down, chin's down, chest is down, energy's a little bit low.
Yeah.
Is there something you can sort of maybe? The thing that comes to mind is because I noticed the watch is like, do you send her like a text or something just to harass her or poke at her? How do you flip?
So we'll try, but I think me and Ange will try and figure out the why first with her. Like, hey, like, what is it before we try to, cheer her up to a degree. So, like, hey, like, what's the reason why? And then, like, we'll both then try to cheer her up accordingly. But it won't be a message, no. So it'll just be conversation But then she's also, like, a really tough cookie. So, like, you'll say, like, we know something's going on. Like, Allie, what's going on? Like, you okay? And, like, she'll be like, yeah, no, everything's fine. And, like, it's written on her face. Like, she can't hide it well that she's not. So we're like, all right, it's basically at that point, just beat it out of her until, like, she tells us what it is. So just make sure, like, she feels comfortable enough to open up that it's, hey, like, we're here for her. So whether it's me or Ange, so obviously there's a good group of girls in here that they do it amongst themselves, like, organically, which is pretty cool to see. And if it's anything, like, that they're comfortable to share with me that they open up and they're not feeling good about, then always make sure to be there for them.
I want to acknowledge that, like, that's something that I've noticed, whether it's Angie or even you, and thank you. You're very resilient, and that's something I respect about you. You've shared a lot with me in our relationship together, and whether it's we've all got shit, right? There's family stuff, there's relationship issues, there's everything, and you carry a lot of weight. Like, there's a lot of invisible weight in your backpack, and you keep going, right? So it's inspirational. And it takes courage and bravery, especially in this culture, to sort of really share what's going on. So thank you for doing so. And thanks for being playful about it, because I know that there's times, especially when Albert and Angie, within the respectful boundaries and expectations, they'll know something about you, and then they just sort of like poke and stretch and jab, right? Especially if it's a relationship type issue where there's a period of time where every time I walk in, somebody's taking a shot or jabbing, right? And just that takes a lot to handle that. So thank you for that. And you have a way of doing it that is fun and lighthearted. Right?
Yeah.
And out of the kindness of your heart, we're saying, like, what you're actually saying is you're actually saying, hey man, I got you. Right, so when shit does go,
yeah, and you got to follow up on it. Like, I think a lot of people talk a lot of crap, and they'll say, "Hey, like, whatever you need, or I'm there for you to a degree." But, like, can you just actually show it, right? So people genuinely know, right? So that's what I'll always do, whether it's for anyone on the team. To be fair, I'll just do it for anyone.
You do it for anybody. I want to interrupt you there because you've done it for me, and
Yeah.
both of you have, actually. I mean, there was time even in March where I've gone through cycles in life, but especially the past 12 months has been probably the shittiest cycle of life for me, holistically, spiritually, physically, all encompassing. And I'll come in here and I'll sit on that table and we spend like the first half an hour. And that's the other thing I like, is that I'm never rushed, ever. Often as I come in here, I have no agenda. Yeah. If I'm in here at 9:20, I know that if time and space allows, you'll allow me to sort of brain dump. And you've done so many times, and you as well. And it's just so heartwarming to be able to have a safe space to cry about things if we have to. You shared, that song that I listen to over and over.
Letter to Myself.
Letter to Myself, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is a song that sometimes I just need a 2x4 to the head to say, like, look, man. And you said, listen to the song, and it's short. It's like 2 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it changed the world for me. And you would have never been able. I would have never learned that if you didn't hold space for that.
It's actually funny because when people come in here, obviously the clinical space is a bit different than most others, where it's very open, so people don't necessarily feel safe right away. But it's funny that you said, hey, like you do feel safe, and that's kind of on us to provide that, right? But to that song though, it's kind of like a constant reminder to trust yourself, right? And you'll have reasons and examples previously that you should, right? So no matter whatever it is going on in that current moment, trust yourself that, hey, you've done and handled tough stuff previously, that, you'll just be able to do it again, but you just don't know the outcome, so it can be very uncomfortable. So it's just kind of like that future self talking to you at the current moment when you don't know that outcome, and so you feel very uncertain, but when you shouldn't, right? Because you have examples from the past of when you've obviously handled certain tough situations in your life that you were able to navigate through, right? So, because it's very easy in moments when, whatever you might be struggling with, that you're uncertain, you're doubtful, this, that, and the other, right? But you shouldn't be, right? You just don't know the outcome yet. So equally should be excited to that degree.
And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you've gone through even just your cycles of life, and you've shared some of them, and that's what makes the difference too, right?
Yeah, because everything's relatable, right? Like, we're all going to have something that we're, working through, and, the context might be different, whether it's relationship or life or family stuff, whatever it might be, right? Hence the mural on the wall, that it's a reflective image of that, that, we're all basically humans, that we're going to have some form of, current struggle, whatever it might be, that it's all the same, it's just a contextually different thing.
So hold that thought, and the mural is not in this frame, but we're going to get some pictures of it because it's pretty cool. But tell the audience a little bit about that picture.
Yeah, so it was, again, something that I envisioned from the get-go that I wanted. So my uncle was a lovely artist, by the way. Hand painted that or airbrushed it, and took him, I think, 50 hours.
Yeah, it was really
Monster
cool.
Graphics Inc. If you need, I think he's got something to find him. But any which case, so obviously everyone in here that's coming in here, quote unquote, in a metaphorical sense, you're going through some form of fight, right? You're trying to rehab to get back from something that is obviously debilitating in some level. And so people can easily reflect, not necessarily internally, but externally, and compare themselves to this, that, and the other, or this person, I should be here, or this or that, right? And they get outside of themselves really quickly, and it just sends them stir crazy. And so I wanted something that literally I will quote to in those moments, because I have that conversation so many times in one day, that it's a quick reflective moment, like here's why, right? And it saves me a conversation, right? But it's a sense in which, you need to, one, focus on yourself, focus on improving whatever it might be in that current moment, and it's within yourself, right? So the mural is basically a negative monochromatic silhouette of a boxer, fancy word of saying, which you'll see, is a boxer, shadow boxing himself in front of the mirror, and I wanted it to be black and white with the gloves being red, so it just kind of packed a punch to sort of highlight. It's just a blank face, if you will. Not that it is, but it's not reflective of any one person. For them to kind of sort of resemble with it, and sort of kind of communicate it with, in a sense in which they can feel, right, okay, today I'm working on this, I'm going to get better at this, and then you improve each day, right? And they focus on themselves to then get to where they ultimately need to be, whatever rate of progress is for them. And so it just really kind of gives them an internal locus of control again, because a lot of people will come in here thinking, hey, you're the physio, take my pain away. We can't do that. That's not our job. Like, we're not magicians. We'll definitely get to a resolution, but there's a process in which we'll definitely achieve that. And so, right, it's a very loaded and complex image, but it can be applied into so many nuances.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It struck home even when you share things. as far as progress, and something as simple as I remember my finger, and
Mhm.
you would say to me that, like, we went through big gaps where you see big progress, and then it's like, you ain't gonna see much, but
Yeah.
you stick with the process and trust it, because
Mhm.
it becomes really easy to stop, right?
And that's kind of where, like Ali was saying, right? Like you have to kind of keep focusing on the why, that education bit, and it won't be ever phrased in an interaction of a question. Is that they're almost looking for an explanation because they don't know. So inform them, right? And make it relative to whatever their issue is, and sort of communicate that so they continuously know the why, which is one thing I stress. Demonstrate the why so they know, and then they can trust you, right? Because you're telling them the specifics, right? Like, we're not here to sell something. We're just going to tell you straight, here's this, here's that. Make things make sense for the individual, and kind of keep working, right? And so, at that later stage, right, we're going through such detailed things that you're not going to see these grand results or these grand improvements anymore, but here's what it is. And then we'll reflect it to whatever it is with that individual, right? So sometimes it's way more obvious and sometimes it's not. But again, it's just continuously educating and informing all of these little things. And, it's a tough gig, to be, working through all these Rubik's Cubes in such a short amount of time. And then if you have, 2, 3 people at the same time, like it's pretty tough. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming back to you now, because now he's, shared a lot of his philosophies. Best part of the clinic for you?
Probably the people I work with, 100%. But if I had to pick something outside of that, how different every patient is.
Ooh.
Like the puzzle piece, like Albert was just saying, the Rubik's Cube that you have to put together. Not every puzzle piece is the exact same. You could see 2 people with the exact same injuries that will present very differently. And then my job is then to play detective and figure out what is going on.